Hi, I'm René Estes, media strategist and advocate for women's autonomy. In this series, we'll uncover hidden forces that are shaping our choices, our money, our relationships, and the media we consume. Let's challenge outdated narratives and take control of our own stories. In this video, we're discussing how women are embracing the trad wife role and how evolving relationships and societal expectations impact this role. There's been a lot of debate about the trad wife movement. Some women see it as a return to traditional values and rejecting the fast-paced modern life. Others argue that is romanticizing an era where women had fewer rights and opportunities. I believe a part of the resurgence it comes from a deep cultural shift. People are looking for meaning and connection and a sense of stability in a world that feels chaotic. After the pandemic, many women started reevaluating what fulfillment looked like. And for some, that meant embracing a more domestic-centered life. Okay, so the young trad wife influencers, there's a variety of things that they're doing. Some are just entertaining, some are cosplaying, and some are marketing their businesses. And so depending on what they are bringing forth is really for us as the audience to discern whether that is entertainment or is it an embracing roles in an illusion that we had choices back, like in my mother's and grandmother's lives, they didn't have choices. And even a lot of part of my life, I didn't have choices. So it's important to put this movement into historical context. The reality is women's financial independence is relatively recent. Until 1970, a woman couldn't even own her own credit card in her own name. Her financial identity was tied to her husband. And that's true of my mother's. It was Mrs., Joel Estes. And so it wasn't Mrs. Carol Estes. It wasn't Carol Estes. So, and if you were a single mother, buying a home was nearly impossible. But what's really important here is that if you were a single mother, you could not rent a home. So the cultural binds were that it would put a woman out on the streets because she couldn't get it because she had a child. And so but then if she was out on the streets, then she would lose custody of her child. The trad wife movement, if you want to live, have a domestic centered life, it needs to be by choice. The other thing that I really want to bring out here is that if you want to live a traditional domestic centered life, but the history, keeping the history in alive, you might be putting out content to mitigate the risk of being completely financially dependent upon your husband. And so I see that some of the traditional wives that we see on social media and the influencers, especially the ones that are really big, that are just young women who have children that are wanting to stay home with their child, which I get. I wouldn't want to outsource that. And then they just want to also mitigate the financial dependency on their husband. And so now they have a platform that they can make content and create a following and earn an income. Yeah, so for some women, embracing the traditional homemaker role is a conscious choice, not a surrendering of outdated gender roles. And like I've said earlier, is a way to mitigate the financial risk of being dependent fully on your husband. And I think that that's brilliant. Like, yeah, mitigate the risk, do what you can, keep it in balance. However, the key is balance and autonomy, as I said. And so is she choosing this from an empowered rather than a societal pressure? And these are crucial questions to ask. True autonomy means making any choice, including choosing a domestic-centered life. The most important thing to recognize is choice is the foundation of empowerment. Whether a woman chooses to work outside the home, stay home with her children, or build a hybrid lifestyle, what matters is it's her decision, not one dictated by outdated norms or economic limitations. We need to make sure we're celebrating all choices while we stay informed about the history that brought us here. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about the trad wife movement? Drop a comment below and let's keep the discussion going.